Hello and thanks for joining us. This is The World Now. Let's begin with the reports of a failed coup attempt in Sudan. The government says it has thwarted an attempted military coup in the country. Reports from the capital, Khartoum, and nearby Omdurman say there has been intense military activity and the main bridge across the River Nile has been closed. The plotters had allegedly tried to take over the state media building. The government is reported to have said measures are being taken to contain the situation. Sudanese military spokesman Mohamed Al Faki Suleiman says the interrogation will begin soon. 2 years ago, the leadership of the country's long-term ruler, President Omar al-Bashir, was toppled. Consequently, a power-sharing agreement established a government involving the military, civilian representatives, and protest groups. Sudan's transitional government has been under intense pressure to deliver economic and political reforms and amid competing demands from conservative and liberal constituencies. And joining me now from Abuja via Zoom to discuss Sudan's failed coup plot is an international affairs analyst, Paul Ejime. Good to have you join us, Paul Ejime.
Thank you for having me.
So we've seen an array of coups in the continent recently, and attempted coups as well. So I just want to ask you if the development in Sudan came to you as a surprise.
Not really as a surprise, if you remember that when al-Bashir was toppled, it started with, what they call revolution, some kind of like Arab Spring, some, civil protests, was really going on for too long, and he couldn't stop them. He tried, and it culminated in the military taking over power. And now, military and then civilians are now sharing power in that, what you call transitional government. But that government has been limping. It hasn't, after 3 years, can you believe there hasn't been, they've not elected a parliament. And then the kind of disaffection and, kind of, what do I call it now? Ill feeling towards the Bashir government is beginning to realize that unemployment, nothing is moving actually. And so the people have become restive again. And that is why perhaps the military, and they're now fingering those, they think that former regime officials and military people are behind it, are behind this botched coup. But if something was actually going to happen, you will not, the thing was, you didn't know what it was, but they were getting to a boiling point. Because if you took over 3 years ago to bring some transition and move to democracy after 30 years of al-Bashir's dictatorship, and up till now nothing is moving. So that has given the vent to this kind of thing, and perhaps more will also come because of dissatisfaction. And then the fact that...
And let's talk about that dissatisfaction. Sorry to interrupt, because I don't want to lose that point you raised. There seems to have been a long-term dissatisfaction with governance in Sudan. You mentioned al-Bashir earlier. He was toppled 2 years ago because of that dissatisfaction. Do you think that perhaps that has something to do with this? Because it does seem like the military in Sudan is doing all it can to not have any form of election in that country.
Well, partly so. And that is the reason, those who are pro-democracy activists and those who love Africa should be worried. Because the military, they don't have any business in governance. But once they seize power, they say power intoxicates. They want to look at Mali, and then there's Guinea. Mali, after a year, they talked about transition. Nobody is satisfied with what is happening because they will probably ask for extension. So the thing to do is to make sure that you do not give them the excuse to take over. If the political class can rule according to the, democratic principles, the military will have no reason to come in in the first place. So it is to prevent them from coming, not when they have taken power and then you begin to grope around and see what, just like after the horse has bolted from the stable and then you start chasing. So we must start, my people say that a dark goat, if you have a black goat, you need to send it, take it back home in time before darkness falls. Because the color will become, everything will become dark, you are not likely to see the goat. So the goat of democracy must be shepherded home in time so that it does not become so dark that the military will strike. I have used that analogy. I hope you get what I'm doing, what I'm saying, because it is the political class that are really the problem. And then the people, the electorate, let them elect. In the case of Sudan, perhaps they've not given them the chance now to elect anybody after 3 years, and that is a tragedy that was avoidable. But you see, 30 years of El Bashir. Meanwhile, he's wanted at The Hague, and then he's also facing corruption charges, and then they are trying him for the coup that he carried out in 1989. That is also to tell people that what you have done can always come to haunt you. The people never forget. They can go back. And so people, there has to be, it calls for caution about those who are leading. That whatever you do, there could be consequences and accountability.
And let's talk about that accountability. Mr. Jimmy, let's talk about that accountability, because we know that Sudan is heavily in debt, and there is also high inflation in that country. There were also recent reforms, religious reforms that is, where alcohol was legalized, and then we also saw a scrapping of the apostasy law. How much of this do you think come into play when it comes to that dissatisfaction and accountability being demanded by the people?
Well, all those things you have mentioned now will amount to tokenism, compared to what the people want. The Sudanese, they want food on their table. The country is running up debt for generations yet upon. And if you ask me, this country has never known peace for a very long time. Remember, one of their leaders, Syed Barre, died in exile in Nigeria. So it's not today, it's been there. And they haven't really, and then this was also a country where South Sudan broke away from the newest republic in Africa. Even that South Sudan also is not having it easy. So it is about governance. Governance will speak to those benefits. It's respect for human rights, taking care of the well-being of the people. Education. Having schools, health facilities. These are the basics. When these are lacking, while you have a few who are accumulating wealth or bringing their own people into government and neglecting other people or going too hard on them when they protest or when they offer alternative view or criticize, you come heavily on them. You are only cutting anarchy and this type of instability. And so political class in Africa, they have to wake up. Because look at how many coups now, or coup attempts within how many months. That is not good for democracy. In fact, some people are saying that democracy is in regression. And what a pity. At a time when Africa ought to be consolidating democracy. Look at what we are having. Military rule, we thought we had passed this stage. How did we get here again? That is a question that every leader, every African must be asking themselves, because it's a collective responsibility. When you are electing people, elect people that can deliver. Don't go for people, getting rigging election and buying votes and selling your votes. Ask for accountability. Ask for people who can give you deliver. That is what it is. Politicians, the media, the civil society, the electorate themselves, the judiciary, I think everybody has a role to play.
Let's talk about that role to play, because this year seemed to be the year of coups and attempted coups in Africa. Like you rightly noted, we have seen coups in Mali, in Guinea, attempted coups in some other countries. What should leaders be doing? Because it seemed to be arising from dissatisfaction, as much as this interruption of democracy is a no-no, but it seems to be arising from dissatisfaction. So what should African leaders, whether prime ministers or presidents, be doing at this moment to ensure that they consolidate on democracy, like you said earlier, and ensure that there is no repetition of any form of coup in an African country?
Play by the rules. The political class who come to seek for political office must play by the rule. If there is a constitution, don't tamper with the constitution, like what happened in Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire. The political leaders are tampering, altering, violently attacking the constitution. That is, they are carrying out political coups and then rigging elections. Let there be transparent and free and fair, credible election. Okay? And then leave the constitution. If the constitution says this is what you do, 2 terms, why don't you do that? Remember, we had a Mandela, Nelson Mandela on this continent, who came out from prison after 27 years in apartheid prison in South Africa. And what did he do? He served for just 1 term. And then, he said he wanted to give the others a chance. Why are this crop of leaders, why can't they emulate people like Mandela? Why do they want to die in office? That will cling to power, sit tight. After 10 years or so, even in America, it's the same thing. You have 2 terms. Why don't they, when they want to copy, they don't copy the right things? Why, if you, in a country of millions of people, you have the opportunity to govern, even if it's for 1 year or 2 years, why don't you make your mark and then exit? Leave when the ovation is loudest. Who tells you that you are indispensable?
I guess we will just never know how the African leader or the average African leader thinks. But we'll continue to monitor the situation in Sudan and see how it plays out. Thank you so much for always helping us make sense of some of these issues around the world. Thank you so much. International Affairs Analyst Paul Ejimi.
Thank you for having me.